Oh
right?
yeah.
This was not an in-joke at all, right?
No, this was
Uh,
just
this was just advertising, right?
this is just advertising, and it's just advertising telling you it's advertising. Did you accidentally hit your own ship?
All of a
Oh,
sudden you have magic inventory again, because when you
yeah.
stand next to the monkey head and pull that thing out, where in the hell did he put that? Right?
Yeah.
Because it is as long as he is, and he just had that in his pants.
Welcome to Save States and Fetch Quest, where we journey back to the games that defined our childhoods. Each episode, we dive deep into the beloved retro title, sharing our memories, exploring what made these games so special, and uncovering the secrets behind their lasting appeal. Whether you're here for nostalgia or just discovering these classics for the first time, we've got something for you. Hi, I'm Raz. I will be your host this time, and I am joined by Choose RedMage.
Hello, mighty pirate.
R. Yeah, we're gonna be a mighty pirate this time. We're gonna dive into a favorite of ours, Secret of Monkey Island,
Mm-hmm.
our first single game episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, very much.
But we also have some time for some opening banter. And back in December, I played this video game on stream during an event called December. And I just wanted to quickly touch upon December because I feel people who find this episode of the podcast might like the concept and how we both approached December.
Oh yeah, absolutely. December was a great time.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, December is a month on Twitch where there are a lot of streamers, over 200 this year, who play DOS games. And yeah, we like DOS games. I myself use DOSBox. RedMage went a bit extra.
Just a tiny bit extra. I just purchased a
Just
PC for that.
yeah, you were playing on actual hardware. How
Yes.
hard is it in this time these days to get the parts for a retro gaming PC?
It's actually quite easy. The thing is, what the main problem that you have with retro hardware is that you need to weed out the broken stuff and the stuff that is not suitable for what you want to do, right? So for me, it was I wanted to have a be all, do all, can do everything system, which makes it very easy because the target that you have is end of DOS era. You want to
Oh
be
yeah.
at the highest 486 or Pentium level, and that's what I chose. I went for a Pentium 166 MMX system, which is basically as high as the true back then DOS PCs went. And then you just need to figure out the system that you're getting or the stuff that you're buying. Is that something where you have to put in work with capacitors and everything? Because we're talking old hardware that is years and years and years old. Or is it something that you can immediately go and just plug in basically and do your best with? There are a few things that you need to take care of, which is how do you get the video capture happening mostly for the streamer part.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you're just a retro enthusiast, the easiest thing is just find yourself a VGA compatible monitor, get a VGA graphics card in there, make sure that you have a somewhat decent sound card that is not broken, and off you go. Right. And basically
Yeah.
that's what it was for me. I paid like $200 for that computer plus an
Oh.
extra 50 for the sound card because I wanted to have a better sound card than the one that was in there.
Yeah, back in the day, sound cards were really important, especially like playing Monkey Island, for instance. I remember just that we got a sound card at some point. It wasn't specifically Monkey Island, but we had Dave's Tentacle,
Oh
and
yeah.
when we first got it, we couldn't play the talkie bit because the sound card couldn't do the talkie bit.
Oh dear, yeah, yeah. For me it was a little bit different because I didn't have a sound card when I was young. The first sound card that I had in a computer, I bought with my own money, but that was already my 486 on the way out. So 90% of these games that we're now talking about, with the game that we're talking about and the surrounding games, I have played them on PC speaker solely. So,
Oh
Day
yeah.
of the Tentacle, when I first heard that there is a talkie version where you have the characters actually speak, my mind was blown.
Yeah, that just not having to read, and especially like we're both not English by birth. That we uh, taught ourselves English or learned English at a young age,
Yeah.
but uh, having to read so much English in and then having talkie versions
Well, for
for me.
you, yeah, for you specifically, because your country of origin is different with that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I remember that
yeah,
when we had a student exchange back in the day, with a school in the Netherlands, where we um were paired up, of course, with other students, and we played games over there on their computer. And the guy that I was paired up with said, "Oh yeah, all of our games are in English."
yeah,
And I was sitting there like, "Oh my god, how do you even cope with that?" Right? I accidentally had a game back in the day where it didn't come in German, and then I was trying to think, okay, so what is the German, what is the English word for German, right? And the German word is Deutsch, which is
yeah.
very close in writing to Dutch in
Which
English.
is the English word for
Exactly.
Netherlands.
Exactly. So I clicked that and I thought, this is not the right language. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
that's.
for us the games were all translated, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I haven't played Monkey Island now in the first version that I've ever played it in, but I had it with German text in there. And I
Cool.
remember that one scene that we will come to talk about. I remember it with that German verbiage in there when,
Oh
and it's
yeah,
like,
I know like two puzzles that we're gonna talk about at some point, which I don't see translate well.
oh, that as
Actually,
well.
one.
Yeah, 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 that as
The
well.
other one is Monkey Island 2 that I'm thinking of.
That as
But
well.
we'll touch upon that
Yeah, we'll
in
touch
a
about that
future
when we get
episode.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, because we both want to do the entire Monkey Island series over the run of this
Yeah, yeah,
this podcast. Even if the podcast dies, we'll just do one Monkey Island episode a year
yeah. Yeah,
till we're
yeah,
done.
we should do that. I mean, we have a good few ones that we need to talk about, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like including the latest entry,
Yeah,
and then we should also talk about the bad ones.
oh yeah, well, there. I mean, yeah.
If we're gonna do them all, we should also, even though the bad ones aren't super bad,
Yeah, no,
they're just
no. It's
not as
just,
good as the rest.
yeah, that's it,
It's
right?
like the bar is really high, and not all of them reach the bar, but that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll get to those when we get to those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some background on how just on text adventures in general, and our history with text adventures. For me, I played a few of the King's Quest games, a few of the Police and Space Quest games. Never really got far into those because Sierra is brutal, especially in the 80s.
Yep.
That's like an understatement. Uh, Leisure Suit Larry was like my big first intro into as a young child, by the way. My
Very
first
good.
intro
Very
into
good.
adventures
Yeah,
games.
it's exactly the game that you want to play as a youngster, right?
I got like 80% of the jokes I didn't get. It was just puzzle solving for me, especially in a language that I hardly spoke. And you had to type it out with Leisure Suit Larry 1.
Yeah, right,
Uh,
right.
but that one still, for a Sierra game, it was not as bad as the rest with the amount of death states, but it still had a lot. Like if you accidentally had some liquor on you when you called the cabbie would kill you to get the liquor. No, no, wait, the cabbie would steal the liquor from you and then kill you both in a horrible car crash.
Right, because that's how every cabbie works.
Yeah.
Listeners to the podcast, I used to work as a cabbie for a good number of years, and that's exactly what I did. And for all intents and purposes, this is a joke. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, don't drink and drive. Which, you know, it was a message delivered in a very brutal way.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a moral message of not drinking and driving. But yeah, and King's Quest was even worse, especially with like random stuff that just I never really got far in those. King's, Police, Space, uh, especially because they still needed the text input. I was still young, maybe 8 when I touched the later ones, and they just killed the joy with all the killing at
Yeah.
some point, at least for like because I didn't understand the puzzle, so I didn't really understand what I did wrong. But then a grumpy gamer came along called Ron Gilbert, and he wrote an article about it. Why adventure games suck and what we can do about it. He wrote this in 1989, which is a year before Secret of Monkey Island came out. And a few years after he came up with the idea of Secret of Monkey Island. But in general, he made a list of rules of thumb for adventure games to make them not suck. And to his own admission, he broke every single one of these rules in Maniac Mansion, except for one. Maniac Mansion is also one where you have so many fail states.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they did a great job following that up with Zach McCracken, with redeeming themselves off of the fail states. But Maniac Mansion is one of these games that I have only played recently for the first time. This was one of my not December games, but I have another category on my streams where I go and play retro games that are community chosen, basically, and suggested. And Maniac Mansion was one of them. And I never played Maniac Mansion before because I went back to Zack McCracken, and that was already a step up in difficulty. And then I started Maniac Mansion at some stage, and I was overwhelmed with 3 characters, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do anything anymore, and I never went beyond that.
Maniac Mansion, I tried it as a kid on the NES.
Oh, okay.
I did not get what was going on. It was also, especially on the NES, I didn't have patience for it for a point and click adventure. I want to run and jump on turtles, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with the controller, it's like. But I recently a streamer that I watch, retro streamer called Fraswar. He does full franchise playthroughs, and at some point he did the Maniac Mansion franchise, and as such did a full playthrough of Maniac Mansion. And luckily he does the full 100% thing, so he did several playthroughs to see several endings. But at some point, few of us in chat had a list of stuff that would lead to an eventual hard lock or fail state.
Yeah.
Because forgetting to pick up an item that is no longer available is one of the things that happens in Maniac Mansion, which is also one of the rules, the Ron Gilbert rules of thumb. Let's quickly go over them so we know what kind of rules he had in his mind when creating the puzzles for Monkey Island.
All right.
We got end objective needs to be clear. It's okay if the objective changes in mid game, but the player should have a clear vision of what they should do. Which in Monkey Island it starts with "I'm Guybrush Threepwood. I want to be a mighty pirate." There we go.
Yes, we have a
The objective
clear
is-
end goal in mind for
Yeah,
the start of the game. Absolutely.
yeah. Sub goals need to be obvious. Most good adventure games broken up many sub goals, and it needs to be obvious which ones you need to do.
Yeah.
Obvious rule now, not an obvious rule back in the day.
First screen
live and learn.
transition from Monkey Island. The 3 trials.
Yeah,
What could
it's
be the sub goals for the first part?
Yeah. Live and learn. Really easy one. Don't kill your players. Basically, don't. It is bad design to put puzzle situations into a game that require a player to die in order to learn not to do next time.
I think
Yeah.
this rule is one that we can today dismiss because of autosave.
Yeah.
Right.
But
In a way dismiss. It shouldn't be.
still, like he said in this article, because I'm reading it from a blog post, but it's an article that was in Game Developer magazine.
Mhm.
Danger is inherent to drama, but danger should be survival if the player is clever, and that's the thing. And
Yeah, that's
what he's addressing is puzzles where you have to die to find out the solution.
that is one of the things in there as well, in the more detailed section of this, for sure.
Yeah.
What I mean is, if you die today in a game, it's not
It's
necessarily
less.
as bad as it used to be back then,
Yeah.
because back then you had to manually save, and you
Yeah.
sometimes were just thrown back hours of progression because you didn't
Oh
save,
yeah.
because it didn't feel like you needed to.
I was playing this game just for the podcast for this episode. I was
Mm.
playing Secret of Monkey Island, and today I was doing the last two chapters. And halfway the second to last, or the halfway in the last chapter, it looked like the game crashed. It couldn't load some kind of animation, and it got over it. But I was like, oh, I'm just gonna watch the rest on YouTube because that crash is like 2 hours lost because I didn't save.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm in the modern mindset of autosaves.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I need to be burned by a retro game before I remember saving regularly again for a while. Even
Yeah.
like as a retro streamer, it's still sometimes you just lose half an hour or an hour or more. And
Yeah,
then it's
I
like, oh
had the
yeah,
same thing
yeah.
with December, with playing through Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, because my system decided to have the weirdest audio issues, and because of the advanced audio system in Fate of Atlantis that we do not have in this game that we're talking about,
Yeah.
it did the audio triggers, and because of the sound card not reacting properly, it just crashed,
Oh yeah.
and then
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. And
lost progress.
oh yeah, that's so painful. The amount of times that I was like near the end of the stream, like, okay, and oh shit, it just crashed. Well, we're ending now, and I'm gonna play the rest off stream to get where we were again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, the dying is less painful now, but still, uh, it's death
It's
shouldn't be for an adventure game. Death shouldn't be required to learn things. I'm a big.
exactly.
I like rogue and roguelikes, and their death is definitely part of the learning system.
Yeah. For an adventure game, if you die, you just need to try again, and
Yeah,
not the death told you how to avoid it.
yeah. Not that Monkey Island is deathless, but we'll get to that when we get to that part of the game.
Oh yeah.
Backward puzzles, which is a backward puzzle is when the solution is found before the problem. So ideally, the crevice should be found before the rope that allows the player to descend, just so that you know, like, there's a crevice there, I need a rope. Instead of, I have a rope here, what do I do with it? It still happens even in Monkey Island, but you could. It's not like you get a rope in. I had one instance of a backward puzzle that we'll get to in Monkey Island, actually, where I was indeed. It took me a while to make the connection. And now that I'm reading this, I'm like, you did one, Mr. Gilbert. You did one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say there's actually a few in there, but we'll get to that.
There's a few in there, but there's one specific one that's in my notes that I'm like, that's actually a backward puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to pick it up. Yeah, that's the worst thing. Going into a save state because you didn't pick up stuff that you can't get anymore. You should always either be forced to pick it up or just always be able to go back. Like the moment you get a transition, you can't go back. You shouldn't have the possibility to not have an item that you might need later,
Yeah.
which Maniac Mansion is riddled with.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Puzzle shoot advance the story. Also, nowadays, a very simple thing. You don't get a puzzle that doesn't do anything. It should be somewhat clear how you solve the puzzle is getting you closer to the goal instead of I did this puzzle and it opened up that part of the game, but why did it open up that part of the game? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because it's just a trigger. That's just a trigger where you load the next part of the game. But you could also make that trigger like, okay, now I opened the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real time is bad drama, which is, yeah, if something is on the clock in the game and if you don't make the clock, you fail.
Yeah. Which is
The
also
Indiana.
Yeah. Sorry. No. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The Indiana Jones example where Indy just grabs his head just in time, which is great, but it doesn't work in an adventure game. And he does it in Monkey Island as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
At least once.
I was about to say there is one instance where you have
Yeah.
that, but at the same time,
You can still retry.
It's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
You don't go into a
realize-
fail state
Yeah,
after it,
exactly.
but yeah,
You realize
it's
that
it's definitely the same part we're thinking of because I think there's only one where you have a really short trigger, and it took me a while.
Yeah, no, I would say there's two.
Two? I
Yes.
may have missed the first one, or it was during the part that I streamed and didn't take notes. And it's also 2 months ago.
Maybe, yes.
Incremental rewards, basically, the player needs to know what they're achieving. Even if in graphic adventures, the reward often comes in the form of seeing new areas of the game. New graphics and characters are often all that's needed to keep them playing. The arbitrary puzzles is basically a puzzle for the sake of a puzzle that you don't even need to do. No, wait, arbitrary puzzle is puzzles and their solution need to make sense. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. They don't have to be obvious, just make sense. There are some in pretty much every adventure game that breaks this rule purely because a lot of it is based on language, especially the ones based on language will be the ones that are the hardest to abide by this rule. Because if you're throwing a pun in there and you're not accounting for an international audience, it's like, oh, this might be hard. That's at least one example for that in this game. And in the next game. And probably also in 3. And but we'll just use this list every time we do Monkey Island to see if we can find some of the things where he didn't keep to his own rules.
Yeah.
A reward intent, basically, the object of the game is to have fun. Figure out what the player is trying to do, the game wants. Mostly what did is for text input is his main thing, where open door, but the door looks like a box, then open box should also work. Just if you do text input, use synonyms, every single one that's available. If the graphic adventure, check proximity of the player character, stuff like that. Just make it more obvious or less tedious for input to get to your thing. Unconnected events. Oh, this is the one where what's puzzle shoot advance? So this is basically the same. Unconnected events is where you do a lot of stuff and then something else happens somewhere else because you hit a trigger in the game. That's not good. And give the player options. There's more than one way to solve a puzzle. Put it in your game. Which this game has at least one example where he does that. Most adventure games puzzles don't have a lot of like places where you have more than one, especially the older ones. It's still very much railroaded. I noticed while playing it, I don't like Fetch Quest in games, even though we're doing a podcast with Fetch Quest in the title. But adventure games are basically Fetch Quest, the video game, and I don't mind them in adventure games.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because a lot of it is just fetching stuff.
And it trains you to pick up everything and have enough
Yeah,
inventory available for stuff.
yeah, which
Not that you
I
have an
really
inventory
like.
issue in Monkey Island. I mean,
Yeah, Monkey Island does inventory management really well by dumping inventory at certain points. I feel
but
so.
but at the same time, you also just have space, right?
Yeah,
Imagine an early RPG and putting
yeah,
the key to the monkey head into your inventory. Just saying.
yeah. There's only one part in the entire game where the size of the stuffing you picked up actually mattered.
That's very true. That is very true.
I think we have touched upon most of the things for background wise.
Yeah.
There are a few available versions. There are a lot of systems that this game came out on, but I want to focus on three versions and a fourth, which is actually the one we played. The hidden fourth option.
Yeah, I think we should just at least mention all of them that we can think
Yeah.
of, just for everyone's complete sake, and
Yeah.
mention the first one that we both ever played, because
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that makes
definitely.
very much a difference in how we approach
Yeah.
this game.
And so the first release was the EGA version, 16-bit colors. I'm not sure which of the systems out of all the systems it released on, this one released on, because I was very bad at that part of the research.
I'm sorry that I have to interrupt you there and state that there's
Oh,
one version before that.
it's a
Because
one before the EGA.
because the original version is the 4-color CGA version.
Oh, I I stand corrected. Like I said, I was very bad at researching the versions, so I'll give you the word about the versions.
But honestly, you're absolutely right. There is basically everyone is looking at the EGA version as being the first version of the game, right? And then
Yeah,
from there coming to the VGA release as well.
yeah,
Right.
which was also quite quickly after the
Yeah.
yeah. So we went from 16 from 8 to 16 to 265 colors.
Yeah.
Then we had a CD-ROM version. I don't know the differences between the VGA and the CD-ROM version because I once again did not do my research for the versions.
There are a few differences in that
Because
right?
it's not a talkie version.
No, it's not a talkie version.
No,
No,
because the first
no.
talkie was Monkey Island 2.
No, but there are a few things. For example, there's one that is always spoken about when it comes to that. That when you look at the sword fighting, the when you go to Smirk, right? When you learn sword fighting, right? You see that visual of Guybrush looking at him with the cigar in his mouth. One version has the cigar emitting smoke, the other one doesn't.
Oh.
That's a difference in the floppy
It's a
versus
difference.
CD version, right?
Yeah.
Why is it, right?
Which is the one that has the smoke? Is it the CD version? Because you would expect that because it uses more graphics.
Yeah,
Not a lot,
exactly,
but
exactly. No, it is the CD version, but
yeah, okay.
there's also talk about what the differences are in terms of how the colors look, right? There is because the color palette apparently has changed a tiny bit for that. Then it had CD based music, which was completely different to the floppy versions, of course, right? And it basically the version on the CD is very close to the FM Towns version, but it has better scrolling in
Okay.
or smoother scrolling in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, what I hear about a lot of the older uh or this era of LucasArts games is that the FM Towns version is usually one of the quote unquote better versions. especially for Loom. I did a lot of research and when I wanted to play it, and everything pointed at the FM Towns version is kind of like the ultimate version there.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And when talking about the versions, of course, I just roped you into the EGA versus CGA. Technically, if we want to be 100% clear on this, the CGA version is basically the EGA version running in CGA, right? So
Ah,
it was
yeah,
tested on that. It was never sold as a CGA version, but you know what I mean,
ah,
right? So
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the first version that we're talking is EGA, and then the differences between EGA and VGA, and then from there on
Yeah.
out.
And then we go far into the future. A good solid 17 years later, we got the special edition release.
Yeah, do we have to talk about that?
What we played is based on the special edition release. So
I know, I
the,
know.
the special edition release is a good way to get Monkey Island to the new players, and you can play the original version in it.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward a bit more, fans did some work, and then we get to the version we played,
Mm-hmm.
The Secret of Monkey Island Ultimate Talkie Edition, which is a fan patch where it takes the content from, if you have to own the special edition, and it takes the content from the special edition and runs a lot of scripts and does a lot of stuff that I don't understand, and then you end up with a version that is the VGA version graphically with with Sound Blaster sounds music in it in various types. I think I played with I don't know which one I played with, and Talkie.
Mm-hmm.
You get the Talkie from that you only get in the enhanced edition in the new graphics, which is something they corrected with 2, where you could just get original graphics with the Talkie.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a hit and a miss with
yeah,
sorry, swing and a miss with the first release of the well, with the first Monkey Island in the special edition,
yeah,
because it would have been so much better if we just had the visual change but kept the audio coming.
yeah. But now we got a special edition where we could get a one for DOS or one for SCUM VM. SCUM VM, real short because we haven't touched on what SCUM is. It is the script hold notes
Script utility from Maniac Mansion.
script creation utility
Yeah,
even for
sorry,
Maniac
yeah.
Mansion, or if you want the bar.
Exactly, the bar.
Yeah, and SCUM VM is just a virtual machine to run SCUM games in on your Windows PC.
Which
Or a DOS version, which is the one I played. I played it in DOSBox. And did you play it on your retro PC, or did you do?
for the podcast, I just replayed it on the on my computer, on my regular computer in ScumVM, because it
I
made it a little bit easier for me to get to it.
yeah
And and this is one of the other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to run the special edition very close to it as well, just to get annoyed by the special edition mostly and have something to
I
rant about. But
yeah
yeah,
I didn't start up the special edition for that. I'm like I want to play the original graphics because I didn't like the graphics for the special edition, but that's just because I wanted the original graphics.
do you know what
Uh,
annoyed me about the special edition? You cannot
no.
skip the intro.
Oh
I just wanted to get into the game to just
yeah.
do a feel comparison between the controller based type input that they put in with the special edition and the more common original editions, let's
Yeah,
call them,
the
right?
verb.
The verb based ones. And it took me forever because I mean, I love the music, and yes, this intro has something to it that I really want, but come on, let me just skip it so that I can get into it. No, 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 no. Full intro. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a nice bridge to go into the game. Uh, so, just a warning. We already we didn't really go into spoiler territory. We're gonna ruin the game for you if you haven't played it yet.
Yes,
If you haven't
exactly.
played it yet, turn off the podcast, go play the game, then listen to it because it's a really good game.
Okay, so
And
before we then go into the game itself, which version do you
oh,
recommend people to play?
oh yeah.
And which was the
version?
first one that you've played? I wanted to know that as
Yeah,
well.
the first one I played was the VGA disc floppy version.
Perfect.
That's the one I had as a kid.
Mhm.
And I recommend wholeheartedly the Ultimate Talkie edition. Buy the special edition. Google Ultimate Talkie edition, Ultimate Talkie fan patch or something. If you Google that, Monkey Island Ultimate Talkie fan patch, you'll find it. It's really easy to set up, and it is the definitive way to play the retro game, but still have the talkie because I don't want to read all of that dialogue. I want voice actors to do it for me.
Yeah. And
And for you?
for me, it was the original EGA version that I played first. Yeah, I had a computer that didn't have fancy VGA graphics back when I played this game for the first time. So I was really happy with what I got there. And then, of course, I somehow got the VGA version back then as well on
Oh, yeah.
floppies. Yeah, and then I was so taken aback when I first saw the CD version that it basically looks like Monkey Island 2 in terms of how the verbs are represented, and that's of all of a sudden that there are images to the items instead of just
Yeah.
text. So yeah, and in terms of playing, I would say the same. Basically, just try to get the talkie version running. It is relatively easy if you're into just, or if you just want to go and grab ScumVM and get that set up.
Yeah.
So
I would say the setting up Scum VM is easier than setting up DOSBox. Because just for DOSBox, you have to create a config file or have an entire directory full of playable games that all have a config file that you can steal, which is what I did.
And one other recommendation, while you're not usually having that as an option to really play, just go to YouTube or somewhere else and listen to the MT32 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Just amazing what they did with a very niche hardware thing back then. Today, every retro gamer knows this thing, right? There is no question that if you utter the word MT32, that someone says, "What is this?" Right? But back then, it was a very high end thing that not a lot of people had, and they still went their way and made sure that you could have the best music ever.
Yeah. I think that is also the ones I played with for the Ultimate Talkie version.
Oh, you did play that with that?
Yeah, you can choose, but
I didn't go for that. I went for the standard Sound Blaster music.
yeah, no, I went for. I'm trying to find. No, I have no idea where. Like
No,
because
okay.
the moment you set up, you get like a text file how you have to start your game,
Mm.
and it's been a while.
Yeah, I
set this
tried.
up
To be
in-
fair, I tried it, and my computer said no. Every single time that
Computer says no.
every single time that I added the MT32, it said, "Yep, no audio." And then I said, "Okay, then I'll
Yeah.
play it on the Sound Blaster."
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to
did.
listen to the Sound Blaster stuff anyway, so
The command I run was monkey space R1,
mm-hmm.
and the R1 does point to the type of sound card it was supposed to use, but I'm not sure if that. I don't know.
Good to
We'll
know.
figure
good
it
to
out.
know. So yeah,
Yeah, I went for the DOS version, so I had command lines.
yeah, that's fair.
To set everything up, and everything worked that I tried. So
All right, somewhere deep in the Caribbean, the island of Miri.
yeah, the all the one of the best intros for any video game. Still,
So good.
so good. It just starts. It just starts. Like
Yeah.
you get that zoom out of Melly Island. you get those words, and then the song starts. Just
Yeah.
one of the best songs in gaming to this day.
Yeah, you first have those slight hints when you see the somewhere deep in the Caribbean, and
Yeah.
then you have those light calypso sounds
Yeah.
just starting in the back, and then you have that going up into the logo and into the music. It's so good.
Yeah. It is.
I'm having goosebumps
To
just
this
talking
day.
about
Yeah,
it
yeah.
right now. Come on.
To this day, whenever I start up this game, it's like, yeah, this is it's so genius, yet so simple, because it's just a song and a wide shot, but it's the perfect song, the perfect build up, and I remember when they did uh, uh, briefly switching to the latest version of Monkey Island when the first trailer came out. It played into how this was set up. It's like, is
Mm.
this Monkey Island? No, no, this can't be Monkey Island.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it
yeah. I
was.
remember that. It was. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, we will come to that game as well at some
Yeah,
stage, but oh my god, yeah, the hype before that, just
yeah,
based off of the fact of how this original, The Secret of Monkey Island, was introduced.
yeah.
They did a
It's
real
the
good job with that.
yeah. It's just and then we dive real quickly into what the goal of the game is. We see the lookout, we see Guybrush, and Guybrush introduces himself. I'm Guybrush Threepwood. I want to be a mighty pirate.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we know who we are, we know what we're doing. Let's
Yeah,
go.
and it was the greatest cheeky intro slash tutorial section ever, right? Because of course the lookout person's standing there, right?
Yeah.
But Guybrush introduces you to you, right? You, the player.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's like you get a little, you start with a little dialogue, you learn how dialogue works in the game. Um, I learned after playing the game and doing some research that apparently, if you want to skip a line, the default button for it is period, not enter. Every single text adventure uses enter, but Ron Gilbert was like, you end a sentence with period, so that's the button you use to skip your sentence.
yeah. So yeah, no, it makes sense. At
It
the
makes sense, but I didn't know it during my entire playthrough.
the same way it makes sense that your verb usage is also keyboard based, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people skip out on that, and if you're going
Oh,
into the
I,
speed running, people actually use that for
I,
everything,
I,
right?
I used it the entire time because I knew from back in the day that like, and it's a really intuitive. If you want to pick up something, you press P. If you want to pull something, you press Y. I don't know why. You got three. We got three people verbs. So I don't know which one is push. I haven't found that out while I was playing.
Well, the thing is, if you look at it, the way that it is set up with the verbs, you're just using from starting with Q, A, and Z, you're just moving from there to the right. So if you want to have the
Oh,
first verb, you press Q. If you want to have the second one in the first line, you press E.
also that also works. Yeah,
Yes.
I just did P for pickup, L for look at, because that also worked. U
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah. That
use.
that that works as well. But that's
That's
the
how I
right
did
side
it.
of the keyboard. The left side
Yeah,
of the keyboard is actually laid out in that
that's
grid.
that's awesome. And so after you go down, you go into the scum bar, which is where you get introduced to the atmosphere of the game. Like, oh yeah, yeah, this is a pirate game. This is a proper pirate game that takes place in a busy pirate town, and there's a guy telling you about Loom.
Yeah. The in jokes in the
Which-
games. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a blatant face first joke.
Oh, yeah.
This was not an in joke at all, right?
No, this was just
This was just advertising, right?
this is just advertising, and it's just advertising telling you it's advertising.
Yeah,
Uh,
but oh my god, yeah, it's so good to see all of that unfold, and there's so many of them, and I'm so sad that one of the in jokes has been cut, in subsequent versions. It's I'll just speak a little bit about it because
Yeah.
we'll get to the forest for the
Soon.
red soon anyway. But there is one joke where there is a tree stump that you can look at, and in the early versions, when you look at the tree stump, it will Guybrush will tell you that he sees a vast set of catacombs open in the tree stump. And then and then he says, "I think I might be able to squeeze through." And the game gives you these nonsensical insert disc 22, insert disc 140 something as prompts to get the game to load that scene. Of course, which is nonsensical because the game came on like 5 floppies, right? So
5.
exactly. So with that, that whole joke was cut, but and I'm sorry to take the episode 2027 when we talk about Monkey Island 3 back already, because in Monkey Island 3 you have a scene where you're in catacombs and you can look out through a crack and you see the scene from Monkey Island 1.
They did a callback. Yeah, I haven't played 3 in so long.
And it's so good.
That's awesome, yeah.
And unfortunately, they cut that joke from this game in the CD version and beyond. It's so I'm so heartbroken about that fact that this is.
They were like, we're not gonna revisit this, so we can just might as well get rid of it. And then they, not even years. I don't know when Monkey Island 3 came out, but pretty close to the CD-ROM version, probably because 1 and 2 were really close to each other.
Yeah,
it's like. Oh, and then they decided to revisit the joke that they just cut a few years earlier from the game.
Yeah, it's so sad in a way, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but here in the Scum Bar, we learn how to become a pirate with a good rule in gaming, the rule of 3. We got to do 3 trials to become one. We got to be a sword master. We got to beat the sword master. We got to find a treasure, and we got to steal something from the governor. Basically, pirate stuff.
Yes, pirate stuff.
Yeah,
we like pirate stuff.
And meanwhile, you ransack the kitchen and everything else because
get annoyed by a seagull.
Get annoyed by the seagull. You end up getting a red herring, which, if you are familiar with English idioms, you know, oh, I probably won't need this. And if you're not familiar with English idioms, like we were as a child, or a translated version, a red herring means nothing to you.
It was a red fish, basically. That's what it was.
It was a red fish. That was basically what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Later, not much later, we find a troll who wants something that attracts attention, but not of no real importance. And this is one of those puzzles where, if you're not English, you're not gonna get this one.
Yeah.
Because this time I got it straight away. Like, how do I get past the troll? I forgot. And then I got this. Like, oh, he wants a red herring.
Yeah, exactly.
But with my limited knowledge of English back in the day, it's like, oh man.
Yeah, that's one of these puzzles that was really tricky because what is
doesn't translate well.
Yeah,
it's one of those puzzles where you just end up trying to give everything that you found to the troll, and eventually, we got one.
Exactly.
But yeah, you set out to do the pirate tests. Which one should we talk about first? Which order did you do them in this playthrough?
Which order? I think I started with sword fighting.
Oh.
And then from there, because you need to get into the forest, right?
Yeah.
In order to do the other one, one of the other ones, and then, I mean, the Fettuccine Brothers are. I think we should start with them, right? We should start with them.
Yeah, because my order was treasure, stealing, sword fighting, because I just wanted to save the best for last. In my opinion, like everybody who thinks back on Monkey Island thinks back of the sword fighting.
Yeah,
but let's start with the Fettuccine Brothers because we ransacked the kitchen earlier. We found a pan. We might use it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, we need to talk about them anyway because either or needs what we get from them. Right?
Yeah.
So
'Cause- So yeah, you go to the Fettuccine Brothers, a random circus on this island
full of swashbuckling pirates.
full of
I mean, that's
swashbuckling
normal, right?
pirates.
You have to have a circus there with some
Yeah,
Italian circus hosts, right? That's
yeah, and there's a big cannon there, and a bunch of arguing brothers. So what's so special about the Fettuccine Brothers?
well, from a technical aspect, the first fun thing about them is that they needed to have different color text, which meant that they need to have different fonts in the system that allowed for the text in the graphics to appear not only in white, but also in green and purple.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That that meant a different font.
Yeah, it did. It did. They needed to work this in so that they can actually. This is one of the improvements that then went into Scum VM, basically, that they had the on-screen text show up in different colors.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
But from a story perspective, I mean, we have circus hosts on an island, right? And you go in there, you listen to them arguing and everything, and then you at some stage they still continue to argue, but at some stage you then get access to your verbs. Sorry, not to your verbs, to your text based system again, and you can say something, and then
Yeah.
they come and run over to you, and they want you to do something.
Yeah, but also this is one of the first screens where they Scum system has an scrolling screen for dramatic effect.
Oh
And
right,
this is the first room where they use this in the game. And Ron, in a blog post about this game, also said there was a bit of a waste. He felt it like a bit of a waste for this entire scene just for one puzzle.
Yeah, yeah, right.
In retrospective, like he wishes it could have been done more, because all we do, like they argue, you come over, and eventually you volunteer to get into the cannon. You because you're playing an adventure game, you already picked up stuff, so you get yourself into the cannon, you get yourself a good helmet, and you fire away.
Yes, and everything goes as planned.
Of course.
Yeah, not because you're getting fired right into the tent pole instead of into the hay pit that they have set up for you to land smoothly.
Yeah.
And what are your dialogue options there?
I forgot.
You forgot? They're upside down.
Been 3 months.
That's the thing, right? That's the
Oh
important
yeah,
thing.
yeah, but now you said it. Yeah, yeah.
Again, from a technical perspective, they made the effort to change the text upside down, which must have cost a few
that's
kilobytes
like-
just to do that for
Yeah.
this one scene.
There's probably like another font.
Yeah, maybe. And the text line, we were talking about Loom earlier, right? As in the most blatant type of advertisement in a game ever, because you have a character that you can ask about Loom. One of your dialogue options here is to say, I'm Bobbin, are you my mother? And this is one of the in-jokes then, right? Because
yeah. This is also, I played this before I played Loom. That part of Monkey Island, because I played Loom for the first time this year during December. So I didn't get that, and now I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, so see, in itself, the line still makes sense because you're just talking gibberish, right? Because you were just fired into a tent pole.
Yeah.
But from a story perspective, from an in-game perspective, having those in-jokes calling out to other games, if you know, right? And it makes nothing to this game, but you can say, aha, they did something there.
Yeah. Well, then you eventually go to the forest. I forgot how you got.
Well, you got from the Fettuccine Brothers, you get the money. And then
Yeah.
with the money, you go and buy yourself a sword and a shovel, and you talk to the shopkeep, and there you have your choice on how to approach
Yeah.
things. You can ask him about
Yeah.
the sword
That's the
master if you want to, or you
yeah.
can just
And
buy the
then
stuff and leave.
yeah. And if you ask him about the swordmaster, he goes to the swordmaster. You can follow him,
And you should
uh,
probably.
and you should. You should. And the good part is also you only have to do that once, because after that you know where the swordmaster is, and um, it was a discussion during creation of the game whether or not that should have been repeated every time, or whether like you unlock it and from then on you can go to the swordmaster whenever you want. And I feel like they did the right, that they did the right choice
Yeah,
there.
why would you want to have that done every single time? I know that I did
Yeah.
it a few times actually back when
Oh.
I played the game for the first time, because I didn't clue into the fact that I could then click on the clearing and it would say Swordmaster. So yeah.
But yeah, you do a bunch of puzzles. We don't have to go into every single puzzle in the game, because then this is going to be a really long episode. But you go through the forest, you find a map, you get one of the, like, for me, a first instance of I did something and all I got was this lousy T-shirt, which you still see references to, and I don't know if this was like one of the first times it was used, or if this was also a reference to an earlier use of that joke.
I don't know.
Whenever I
don't
see
know
it
either.
now, I think back like it's from Monkey. In my brain, that joke is from Monkey Island.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. It's
Yeah.
from Monkey Island.
But that's how you do the treasure thing. You find the treasure in the forest. If you go and rob the estate, you get a really fun action sequence where the verbs just change and the game plays itself, which I really like. It's filled with a lot of jokes in there where verbs that were never used and never used again in the entire game just pop up, and because you're doing a fight sequence that you can't see, which they program through. You just see the verbs of what's happening in that fight sequence. Which I
basically
really
they made
liked.
a little bit of a movie script there, and
Yeah.
in the blog, it was also mentioned by Ron that they needed to cut something, and he addressed game developers never be afraid to cut something. And in this case, they wanted to have this all play out, that you can do this, but then they made this sequence instead. And he admits that it could have been a tiny bit shorter, especially when he went through that as a playthrough years later. But all in all, it is still, when you go through it the first time, it's a lot of fun, right? When you go through it the 5th, 10th, 15th time, I don't know how many times you've played the game, but for me, it was like, oh yeah, I need to do this, and I'm going to grab a coffee, because at some stage I'm just standing out there again, and I can then interact again.
Because it's been like at least 10 years since last time I played the game. I went through the entire thing and just read it out. I think this part I was also doing on stream, where you are more forced to read everything on screen. So it might be the first time where I actually fully took in the scene and what happened. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it is one where if you give me a skip button second time I'm doing it, I'm skipping it.
Yeah, that would be
basically.
It would be nice to have a skip button for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And is this where you get thrown into the water after this one, or is that?
Well,
I think it's after this one.
No, not yet.
That's just after the entire sequence. Yeah.
So you go through the sequence, through the first half of the sequence, and then you need to come back for the second half of the sequence, where you then get the idol and then get thrown into the water.
Get thrown into the water with a very easy puzzle, which isn't obvious at the first glance. You try to get a lot of stuff, and you're trying to grab stuff to cut the rope, because you're tied to this heavy idol. Luckily, Guybrush Threepwood has at some point mentioned that he can hold his breath for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
I bet this will come back later to the game. Wait, we're there now. Sorry.
We're there now. He's in the water.
Yes, he's underwater, and
He's
some
underwater.
pirates
So
are
you have some.
on the quay talking
Yeah.
about stuff and dropping knives into the water and stuff.
Yeah. So all kinds of stuff that you can use to cut the rope, but it's all just out of reach. It's really unfortunate. Your own sword is also out of reach.
Yeah,
I just love that the solution is just pick up the idol,
yeah,
put it in your pocket, and because you have magic pockets, you just no longer weighed down by it.
yeah.
But
So good.
you could also just wait here for 10 minutes and get the only death state in the entire game
Yeah.
because he wasn't kidding. It's exactly 10 minutes from the moment he hits the water where he can no longer breathe and
Yeah.
starts drowning.
And this
It's
is
the
one
only
of.
way you can.
Sorry, continue.
I think it's the only way you can kill Guybrush in this game.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the rare uses where they have changed the verbs again, because what you then can do is float, bob, decompose, order hint book.
Now I'm sad that I didn't wait the 10 minutes.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, yeah.
No, because
you
that
should do
was-
it at least once. Just
I have
to-
once. I have a save game in a separate line called the start of 10 minutes.
That's nice. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can go back. I did it back in the day, and I was like, I don't have to do it now. But I forgot about the verb change.
Yeah, no, that's the fun. That's a fun part. But we need to backtrack one step because the water stuff happens before you go and collect your crew, and we haven't mentioned the sword fighting. And I
Ah.
just thought
So
that
we got. I
that we
wanted to
just
save
talk
the
about
sword
the sword
fighting
fighting a
for.
little.
Yeah, definitely. Not just talk. I want to quiz you.
Oh, you want to quiz me?
I wanted to have a little test. Just
All right,
throw
all
out 3
right.
insults.
All right, yeah.
Four insults. 3 regular ones, 1 swordmaster one.
Okay.
Let's see
all
if
right,
you
all right.
if you can do them.
Here we go. Here
we
we
g-
go. I'm rubber.
so we
You're
got-
glue.
Yeah. So the sword, for those who don't know, sword fighting in this game is inspired by old timey pirate movies where they did more talking, smack talking than actual fighting. And the entire sword fighting is you get insulted, you give the proper witty comeback, and then you win if you know. And that's how you learn. Like you go to new
Yeah,
pirates, they give you new insults. You try them on another pirate, you get the right comeback. And eventually you go to the swordmaster, you know all these comebacks to the insults, and he throws different insults at you.
It's and it's
But-
again it's such an ingenious way of linking two puzzles together basically, right? First the whole thing of getting all the pirates to draw out all of the insults so that you can
Yeah,
get
which-
the comebacks, and then matching those up to the swordmaster.
It's honestly, it's a bit long getting all of them. You don't need all of them.
And at some
To
stage the
win from
game
the
will
swordmaster.
also
Some
not give
cases,
you
the game's.
all of them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
At some stage, the game also says you oh wow, you're good enough to beat the swordmaster, and then you might still want to get some more comebacks because you don't know all of them yet. But
Yeah, but it
It's
gets
useful.
significantly harder to get them then. I tried it
Yeah.
actually when I played. And because I wanted to have all of them just for the sake of it, and I couldn't get them. At least not in a reasonable amount of time.
yeah, but you fight like a dairy farmer.
Oh, how appropriate. You fight like a cow.
That's the first. I think that's the first one you learn.
That's the first one
that-
you learn. Yeah.
Yeah. So my handkerchief will wipe up your blood.
So, you got that job as a janitor after all?
Yep. And people fall at my feet before they see me coming. That's one of my favorite ones.
Even before they smell your breath?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then one more from the Swordmaster
really
herself.
good. Yeah.
See, that one's really good, yeah. For reference, let's see, the same one from the Swordmaster is my wisest enemies run away at the first sight of me.
Yeah.
But no one will ever catch me fighting as badly as you do.
You run that fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many good ones, and when you hear some of the insults for the first time, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
like
when I
the
was
one, like the one about diapers. Have you stopped wearing diapers yet?
so
Yeah.
yeah, so what kind of comeback would this be? And it's like, why did you want to borrow one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I replaying it. I remembered all except for one.
Oh, okay.
Like when I got it instantly, I was like, that's the comeback. And there was like one. I think You're No Match for My Brains, You Poor Fool. It's the one where I didn't instantly remembered the comeback.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't remember that one either.
It's I'd be in real trouble if you ever used them.
Oh, it's that one. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah.
And the Swordmaster fight is a nice mix up of the insults where you learn to be clever for yourself, like which one matches best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's still you get every single one as a possible reply. Well, yeah, once you get all three of them, you get thrown into the water. The governor Elaine gets kidnapped, and you get out of the water, and that's when you find out that she's kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and yeah, then you want to get a boat, a ship, and you want to get a crew. Now, we've met a variety of characters here, and basically, if you really think about it, you need three characters to be on your crew. And if you really think about everybody you met along the way, you're either going to start with the pirate lords who do nothing, or the pirates of that are out on the street, who I don't even know if they're still here at this part of the game. And then there's three separate characters that you met that you're like, oh, maybe that's the crew then. I found it really easy to figure out who was the crew that you're gonna have to find.
Yeah.
Maybe it's also part of memory.
No, that's I think it's easy. I mean, we haven't touched on the characters. The first
Yeah,
one, Otis, you come across
yeah.
him because you will want to get the nail file from him. That is
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah,
that is in his cake. We haven't touched
yeah,
on that puzzle, but you need that in order to steal the idol. So you have met
yeah,
Otis already, right? So
yeah. You met Otis, and the cake in the fowl in the cake is another one of those translation things where uh, a fowl has the word has two meanings. It could also be a folder with
yeah, yeah,
information
yeah.
in it. And if you're not that good at English yet, you could have the wrong. I know a friend of mine didn't understand why there was a folder with information inside of a cake,
Yeah.
because it's also like it's a Looney Tunes like reference.
Yeah,
Like if
it
you
is.
didn't grow up on Looney, I think that's the only place where I got the reference as a kid. And if
Mm.
you didn't grow up on Looney Tunes, it's like you might not even know the whole fowl in a cake
Yeah, 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 yeah.
part. But yeah, you got Otis. The puzzle to get him out of the jail cell. I remembered the puzzle, but I'm like,
And
man, this is going back into this. And if you don't remember this, or just going blind into this is a terrible puzzle to figure out.
real-time action is
Probably.
bad.
Yeah,
I'm
real
telling
time
you,
action is
real-time
bad.
action is bad.
But if you know the puzzle is you got to get Grog, because Grog just it eats away at the tankards it's in. So you got to get a lot of tankards, because if it eats away at the tankards, it will probably also eat away at the jail cell. That's the logic that you got to have in your mind. Now if you at some point went into any random door in Maddie Island in the town, you would have figured out that if you go into the door on the second screen of the town, you'll warp up on the other side, which is a really quick shortcut if you're running with grog that you have to pour from mug to mug.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, like I had 2 mugs spare at the end. But if you don't know that, you won't have 2 mugs spare. You'll barely make it
Yeah.
to the jail cell to free Otis.
Yeah.
Well, once he's free, you ask him to join your crew. He leaves. He doesn't say yes. He just leaves.
It just disappears. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I'm like, I haven't recruited anybody yet. Um, then you Swordmaster is easy to recruit. You just say, "Hey, Elaine's kidnapped." Swordmaster comes along.
Yeah.
Fine, one crew member, and then you get Meat Hook, which you haven't, you may have met.
Yeah, you might have
If
gone
you've done a
there.
full explore, at that point you've done a full explore on the island. You've reached a cable running across the gorge. And you get to use the infamous chicken with a pulley in the middle.
Yeah.
Which, until you see that cable, you have no idea what to use the chicken with a pulley in the middle
Why
for.
would you have a rubber
It's-
chicken with a pulley in the middle?
I don't know. Somebody said something about not getting items before the puzzle. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, there is
The-
something about
but-
that, right?
You could get these in the right order. You could, if you don't go to the shop first and get the chicken with the pulley in the middle, you could end up at that place first. So it's not a big violation.
But I
Not
would
like
say
one-
it is a violation just because
It
the
is a
fact
violation.
You're getting thrown into town first, and you have to
Yeah.
get out of town in order.
You're
to go
more
to...
than likely getting the item before
Yeah.
getting the puzzle. But it's not that big of a violation because it's either way, it's going to be close to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and then you got Meat Hook. How do you persuade Meat Hook to? I know at some point you got to face.
You have a very important task.
Yeah, you gotta face a very scary creature. that
Yes.
ate
Oh
both
my
his hands.
God. Yeah, it's so scary. And
Yeah,
should we,
I
should we
don't think
actually
we'll
talk
spoil
about it?
this one. No, I don't
No,
think so.
no,
I
we
still
shouldn't.
have nightmares. This is
Yeah.
if you haven't played the game yet, just be ready for this part.
Yeah, you need to face an abominable creature. It's
Yeah.
so scary.
So at that point, you have recruited 2 crewmates, as far as you're aware. So you go around looking. It's like, I don't know where the third crewmate is. Let's get a boat. You meet Stan. Stan is amazing. Stan's
Wavy
code
hands.
is wavy hands. Stan's code. I love the choice of the texture of his code
Yeah.
being static.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
It's just there. It doesn't move with the rest of him. It's just
As soon as he
It's
moves his arms,
amazing.
you see that it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's Stan.
Stan is a businessman. He sells used boats, and eventually you buy a boat from him. It's a lot of money, but luckily you know a storekeeper that leaves his safe unattended.
And shows you exactly how to break
and
it.
shows you exactly the codes to get into that safe. So, you know, the money isn't that big of an issue. You get a boat, and then you're like, oh my God, where do I find the rest of my crew? You accidentally walk onto the dock at some point because you're like, that's what happens for me. And it's like, oh,
Mm.
we're getting a cutscene because Otis decides to join your crew.
Yeah.
Which it's a nice little twist, but it wasted for me like 15 minutes of running around the island. Like, who's the third one? I thought
Yeah,
Otis was the third one.
Because you go to Smirk and he doesn't open the door. That's the only
Yeah.
other named character that you have, right? And the Fettuccine brothers are have disappeared as well. So yeah.
It's like that he's the only one that can be it, but and then at some point, if you have them all, you go to the dock. It's like, oh, bump, and then you get to Act 2, you get onto the ship,
And what
and
happens?
they instantly instant mutiny.
Yeah, of course, because your Guybrush Threepwood, mighty pirate, and not a captain at all.
Yeah, but that's fine because we just collect every single thing on the ship. You get a nice little recipe,
Mhm.
which I'm not even sure what the recipe is called, but it helps you get to Monkey Island. Honestly, what I did here is I threw everything I had. I tried to throw everything I have after collecting everything on the ship into the pot because I wasn't gonna. First time I played this as a kid, I did like I tried every part of the recipe, like what they meant. This time I just threw everything in because everything that wouldn't go, you almost have to throw everything you have into the pot,
Yeah.
and everything you still need just won't go into the pot.
Or
like
you
for
can
instance,
pick it up again, like the gunpowder.
yeah. Like for instance, you got a fancy magnet. Stan gave you a magnet. This is important later.
Mhm.
Stan gave you a magnet. It doesn't go into the pot.
Yeah.
And a lot of other stuff. You and I
And
just threw everything in, and at some point, bomb, Monkey Island.
and it's
That's
but it's honestly a nice cut in the game because
yeah,
it marks a very clear cut in between the two main stages that you
yeah.
have, because it
It's
is self-contained. You don't need anything from before that you didn't already get.
yeah,
You don't need anything from it after, unless except for the stuff that you keep in your inventory,
yeah.
as you mentioned.
That you keep, and that was everything that you need
Yeah.
later is forced upon you, so you can't miss it. And yeah, it's a nice little contained thing. The only part that I struggled with as a kid in finding was a one human skull pressed, because there's a crew member on the ship who has a human skull tattooed on his chest,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't think about the Jolly Roger existing.
Yeah, especially pressed. I mean,
Yeah,
pressed, if we again speak about English, if you iron something, people call it pressed, right?
yeah,
So yeah,
but yeah,
it's one of these
so
other
that one.
language things that we come
Yeah,
across
I
here.
was just like a flat skull, and a
Yeah,
tattoo is also a flat skull.
fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's something that Ron mentioned as well in the post, right?
Yeah, I think he was confused because at some point they were toying with the idea of the tattoo being part of the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, everybody falls asleep, or at least you fall asleep. I don't know if the crew falls asleep. Don't know if the crew cares.
They're sunbathing. I mean, of course they
There's
fell asleep.
sunbathing. Yeah, and you fall asleep because of the concussion, and suddenly you're at Monkey Island. There's a cannon on the deck. You have a pan. You already learned that the pan is a perfect helmet.
Exactly.
There's some rope, which can be used as a fuse. You found some gunpowder, which you already used in the cooking, but you can also use here. So you put gunpowder into the cannon. It's all pretty straightforward. At some point, you may have tried to burn some of your flyers that you got. So you got a literal flame in your inventory.
Why would you need
Uh,
those flyers from Stan anyway? I mean, they're yeah.
so you set everything up. You light the fuse, and the cannon fires, but you're not in it. Then
Well,
you do it again, and then the cannon fires, and you're not in it. And then you do it again, but this time you set up. I wouldn't be able to do this without keyboard shortcuts. That's how short of a timer you get with the cannon firing and using the pot.
I think you can just click on enter cannon, if I remember correctly. You would then automatically use the pod.
Um,
I have to go back to it. I because when
I
played it now,
did.
I just went through it
Yeah.
once, right? And it immediately
Yeah, I had to do it several times, and I did use pot. And you don't have to use the pot with the cannon. If you use the pot, you enter the cannon.
okay.
But still,
Or
just
it was that way around. Yeah.
scrolling up to the, or it wasn't scrolling up, but it was like 2 lines above where my flaming mess was,
Mm.
the pot. So at some point, the only time I made it is like clicking up twice and then being ready to use. So when I used the fire,
Mm.
I could instantly go to the pot.
Well,
But that was a timed one where I was like, this is annoying.
yeah, it was.
The
It
fuse is
was.
really short.
Real time
you
action
don't-
is bad. Number 2.
Yeah. But then you get fired onto the island. I really like the island.
And guess where
Uh,
you land? You run into a tent pole and you now land in a tree because
Yeah.
apparently something wooden is probably the best thing you want to land.
Yeah.
in.
And you learn that if you throw something against a banana falls out.
Yeah, important.
Useful information.
Remember.
Yeah. I hate the map for Monkey Island because it is so very like the map for Melly Island. It was very clear where everything you could click was, and Monkey Island it was pixel hunting. The pixels were really wide, but especially with there was one location that I just couldn't find, which was Herman's fort, because it kind of blended in with the rest of the mountain. And the rest was kind of okay because you find a crevice first. You find a crevice first. You notice that there is a little ledge down there and there are ores down there. You probably need those ores
For the rowboat that you've
And you-
seen right next to the tree.
for the rowboat that you've seen. This is and you can deduct that I'm gonna need 2 ropes now,
Mhm.
which is also your first mission on the island. Get 2 ropes.
And there's one instance in this whole sequence with getting the ropes where I would say that we get to a solution before we actually see the puzzle. Because I remember when I did it the first time that I immediately blew up the dam.
Oh, I saw the crevice first, then I saw the hanging body, and then I saw the dam, and after that I got the gunpowder because I couldn't find the fort. And you get the gunpowder and the first rope from the fort.
Yeah, so for me it was
So,
I went to the fort, I got the rope
Yeah,
from
if you
there,
go to the fort first,
and then I went
but
back.
it is yeah. If you do a logical order, you stay on like the screens. This is less of a offense for that.
No,
Because it's like if you go by order or by the way it's presented to
by
you,
the more
you might even
obvious
run into the
way, yeah.
monkey along the way. You
Oh, the
learn that the monkey wants a banana. You
Yeah.
give the monkey a banana. It's like, oh, the monkey wants more bananas. Oh well.
Yeah, you give the monkey the 2
Uh,
bananas that you have, and he starts to follow you, which is an indicator again. So
Yeah,
all
I
in
didn't
all,
go to the monkey.
yeah, all in, but all
I
in all,
skipped the
it's,
monkey, but that's because I remembered that the monkey wanted a lot of
bananas.
bananas.
But yeah, it's all in all good sequencing in terms
Yeah.
of getting you a little bit of information first, right?
Yeah.
And it's only a minor thing that you can blow up the dam before.
Yeah, and then we have Herman Tufrat, who is annoying, especially if you
Yeah,
don't know how
I
to
have
skip
business to
dialogue
do.
lines. Yeah, you don't know how to skip dialogue lines, and you're doing the talkie version.
Yep.
He talks a lot, but he's also funny.
Yeah.
As you make your way through, at some point you end up at least you blow up the dam. You get the second rope because the body was hanging there with a rope, and it's now washed ashore. So that's a really good sequence of events. And then you go to the northern part of the island because you can now.
Well,
and you meet. Oh,
we should first go up the hill because that is again a very
yeah,
obvious one.
Yeah, going up the hill, and which is one that I really liked as well. I think I did the hill after going north. Maybe,
Okay.
But you see a little artwork, you spin it around, and then you go up the hill and you see a rock, and you're like, oh, if I push this rock, something will happen with the artwork I just spun around. Down, and now with some test shots, you eventually, because you learned that if you hit a banana tree hard enough, bananas fall out.
Yeah. So you get
so
that lined
you
up.
get more banana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? I did this time, and I don't think I did last time. Did you accidentally hit your own ship?
No, I did not. I did not. I did that. Before, but I didn't do it now.
It's a different ending. It
Yeah.
just unlocks a different scene in the ending, which I didn't know because I didn't know you could sink your ship. But I like that little extra.
Yeah, you can.
And just a little extra joke.
And here we have my most favorite in joke ever on the mountaintop. Because if you explore, like you do in all those games, you just walk over to the right edge of the mountain. And what happens there?
Oh, yeah. Wait, I didn't do it this time. But you almost fall off or something?
No, you do fall off.
Oh, you fall off.
Yes, you do fall off, and you die. You get a Sierra-style dialogue pop up that says, "Oh no, now you've done it. Better hope you have better saved your game." And then 5 seconds later, Guybrush comes back up onto the mountaintop and just says, "Rubber tree."
I completely forgot that. That's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
that's
jab at the
yeah.
bad scripting from the Sierra games.
Yeah,
So
that's the
good.
part I did today, and I wanted to like get through it quickly, so I completely missed that one, and I completely forgot about it as well.
Yeah, but it's
Which is
so good. And
yeah.
there's another tiny version difference between the CD and the floppy version. The CD version says rubber tree with an exclamation mark at the end.
Oh, yeah. Do you have more room on the CD? You can add
Exactly,
some
you can add
exclamation marks.
an exclamation mark. Okay, now we get
Uh,
up to
the
the
cannibals,
north
the
and the
most
cannibals.
quoted line out of all of Monkey Island pops up here at some point because you get caught by the cannibals trying to steal their bananas because we're on a banana quest.
Yes, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, look behind you, three-headed monkey. And
No,
and
I'm
they
not
look
falling
behind
for
it.
that again.
There's nothing behind them. And then a three-headed monkey walks behind them, and you can do the line again. And they're like, "Oh no, we're not falling for that one again." And it's just such a great joke.
Yeah.
It's when a joke gets quoted 35 years later,
Yeah.
still, I still it still pops up when I'm
Still
in
an amazing
random
one,
Twitch
yeah.
chats, and it's not even about Monkey Island. Still, people will do the "Oh, look behind you, three-headed monkey."
Yeah. So good.
That's just a really good one. But eventually, the cannibals will lock you up. Um, and they put two spears in front of the door, and you can get out. And then you can go back, you can get locked up again. The cannibals will then board up the door. Um,
And this is the
you can do it
only
again.
place where your inventory
Oh, yeah,
actually
yeah.
doesn't line up with
Yeah, it
what you can
doesn't have
do.
yeah, it's no, you no longer have a bag of holding which just holds everything because in the shed you find the banana picker which the annoying guy wants.
Herman wants, yeah.
Herman wants,
In exchange for the
and
monkey head
you have a
key, which you
little hole you can escape out of, and it's like, oh, I can go through this, but I can't bring this.
yeah.
All of a sudden, your inventory isn't magical anymore. But yeah, every time you go back in, the door protection gets safer. At some point, it's chained up, and at some point, there's a high tech vault installed which says armed. That's the fourth phase.
Mm.
It's a little joke that I didn't know the first time, but this time I went back because I was like, I need that thing. I'm gonna try more inside of the hut. I was like, oh, it's different. I wonder how far this goes.
Yeah.
But
But
I really like that one.
but eventually you make it out and you figure
Yeah.
out how to get the banana peeler, banana picker, because you need the banana
Yeah.
picker in order to get the key to the monkey head, which
Yeah.
is a giant Q-tip. Sorry, it's not a Q-tip.
Yeah.
It's a cotton swab.
It's not a Q-tip. They're not
It's a
allowed
yeah,
to use the
exactly.
word Q-tip because they don't use the Q-tip in a way that is the intended use of a Q-tip.
Yeah,
because you
don't
shouldn't put Q-tips or cotton swabs in your ears. 'Cause
exactly.
you will damage your hearing.
Yeah, exactly. So
But yeah, you make friends with the cannibals, and then you can make your way into the Monkey Island, and then you get lost,
yeah,
and then you
but
decide to visit your cannibal friends again. Oh, but
just to hit on the cotton swab, all of a sudden you have magic inventory again, because when you stand
yeah,
next to the monkey head and pull that thing out, where in the hell did he put that? Right?
yeah,
Because it is as long as he is, and he just had that in his pants.
yeah. It's just he has magic inventory,
Yeah.
except when a puzzle requires him not to have magic inventory.
All right, yeah. So, but then we get to the cannibals again,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, the cannibals tell you there's only one, just one route, and that can make the potion to banish ghost. Just one magical route. Just there's
Just
no
one.
other route like it. Just one. So you got to get that one. You get. I really liked the. So at some point, you got a flyer, which is a case of one of two cases of getting the solution to a puzzle before the puzzle that are about to pop up. You got a flyer how to get ahead in navigation. And the cannibals have the head of a navigator, which you need to get through the catacombs. And the only way how to get that is by giving them that flyer. It's like, oh yeah, but here you have a flyer how to get a head of navigator. Oh, we can get a new head of navigator. And that puzzle was fairly easy
Yeah.
compared to the next grievance I have with the same rule. Because you
Oh.
make your way, you make your way onto the pirate ship. Eventually, the head of navigator is invisible to ghosts. You threaten the head of the navigator with drop kicking him into the lava to give you his necklace, so you're invisible to ghosts. Then you make your way into LeChuck's chamber. You see a key hanging, but you can't get close because LeChuck hears you. And this is where I got stuck
alright.
for like.
You didn't get stuck on the on getting the necklace for a bit? Because
Oh no, I just talked to.
because that is where I got stuck for a bit.
Oh no, I
if-
just talked to I remembered having to talk to the head
Yeah,
to
because
get it, because if you try to take it, if you try to use it, the head also talks to you. Is like, no, you can't take it. That's mine. I'm like,
Yeah.
we'll see about that. And I was already at the ship at that point, so I was at the point where you need to talk to him. So I didn't get stuck there. No.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
for me,
straight up told.
for me it was I just went in there, right? I went to the ship and I thought, okay, how do I get onto the ship because they can't see me, right? I know that there was something on how to get the necklace, and I talked to the head and I asked him a second time, I asked him a third time, and then I thought, was there something else that I was supposed to do? No, you just have to continue begging him.
Yeah, continue talking until you get the option of what if I drop kick you into the lava, and he's like, second thought, who needs a necklace when you don't have shoulders anyway?
Yeah, exactly, and then he gives you his smile, and then but
I got stuck on the key. Because
creaky
at the end of Act 1, we got a magnet. And
a very strong magnet.
A very strong magnet. I've at several points I've tried to use the magnet as a solution to a puzzle, but at this point it was so long ago that I had disregarded the magnet. So it took me a while to realize that I needed to use the magnet to get the key, which then leads to a sequence, which in the entire ship. The key is the key. Really, it's the way you solve the sequence of how to. Get. I'm not quite sure what you get at the end of the ship, except being kicked out or no longer being on the ship. Oh, you get the route. Yeah, that's what we're going to get the route, and then you go back, and then the ship's gone.
Yeah,
basically.
You go get the route. You get back to the cannibals. They make their root potion to kill ghosts, and then you go back in order to save the governor, and the ship is gone.
Yeah, and here it feels like. They didn't want to add another puzzle for you to get back. So Herman Tufrat just shows up like, oh yeah. And he recognizes the ghost as an old friend of him because there's one ghost left. And Herman is like, hey, how are you doing? Oh yeah, but we're going to miss the wedding. Oh, we could take my ship.
But you only got that sequence. Why?
I don't know.
Because you blew up your ship.
because I sunk the ship.
Because if you don't
That's
do that,
why.
your crew is joining you.
Of course, your crew would. Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so this is just a save, and okay, we put in a joke, but now we put in a second joke to make up for that joke, because it's just like, oh yeah, I have a ship. Oh, can I come? Yes, sure. If you promise to save me, if you promise to rescue me, okay. That's the entire sequence there. But now I know why. It's as a solution to the sinking of the ship.
Yeah.
Dilemma.
Because if you don't, right, if you don't sink your ship, you will not save Herman.
Yeah.
And you will just sail back with your crew.
And I feel that is the canon way how this sequence went, because I remember Herman coming back later and being mad at us for not saving him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go back to Melly Island. We make our way over to the church. I feel that this is where knowing how to use the doors is important, because there was a ghost on guard, but because I wanted to go fast, I just went through the doors. Well, I'm not sure. You could probably also use the root beer on him.
That's the thing, right? So the sequence is technically there to teach you that it works, that
Yeah.
the root beer
Yeah, but you also
potion
have the
works.
first. Yeah, you also have the first ghost that you get on the dock. So maybe it's
True,
like a second.
true. Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
So then you get to the sequence in the church, which is where Elaine got her name from, which I only learned in the research for this one.
yeah.
Because there is a scene in the movie The Graduate where there is. I've never seen The Graduate, but I know the scene. It's
Mm.
like the famous "Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Silence" scene, where dudes bang on the wall on the window, and he just shouts "Elaine, Elaine!" And there's a throwaway line. Dave Grossman. We didn't really touch on the three main people. We basically only mentioned Ron, but
Yeah,
there's also Dave and Tim, and
yeah.
it's we will give plenty of recognition in future ones, but also when we get to Day of the Tentacle,
I can't wait to talk
because we'll
about Day of the
eventually get to
Tentacle.
Day of the Tentacle.
Of course
Yeah,
we will. I mean, come on.
but he just threw it in as a runaway throwaway line, and apparently there's like, oh, we could just call her Elaine, and that's how Elaine became Elaine instead of just the governor, and
Yeah.
how she got more of a backstory as well as a personality. But yeah, there's you break up the wedding. Turns out Guybrush is a big clumsy idiot that basically ruined the plan to get rid of LeChuck, because Elaine wasn't. Elaine set a trap for LeChuck. She wasn't the bride. The bride with two monkeys in a wedding dress with root beer, or the root solution was root beer. Wouldn't possibly be ordinary root beer.
No, 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 no. Sorry. Yeah, we call it
But the
root beer.
monkeys ran off, so you try yours. Yours don't work. So now you get a bit of a violent sequence where you get punched around the island until you eventually land into a grog machine,
Which is
which
not a
kind of
Coke
looks like
machine at all. No.
it's not a Coke machine. It only looks slightly like a Coke machine, but not
Legally
entirely.
distinct.
Legally distinct Coke machine. There's a bunch of money on the floor. The only thing left in your inventory at this point is money. So, and there's also one bottle of root beer on the floor. So you could think money is the solution here. No, you grab the final bottle of root beer, ordinary root beer, not made from the one single special root. Use it on the chuck, boom,
And here we
job's done.
have the only good action sequence, because LeChuck takes long enough to charge his attack against you
Yeah,
that you can fumble the use of
yeah,
the root beer a few times before he actually punches you again. Right?
yeah.
Again, action sequences are not good, but in
Oh
this
yeah, action
case we do
sequences are
not.
not good.
In this case, we can give this one a pass because it is slow enough for you to
Yeah.
fumble it 2 times. I tested it because I fumbled it 2 times.
And then you get a nice reward finishing sequence of the game. You get fireworks. We didn't really touch upon the close-up art. That this game, it kind of takes you out of the game, but I really liked it, and because it's a completely different style. I was reading the blog that we've referred to a few times. Ron wasn't a fan looking back at it, because he thought the style was too different from. While they were great art, never felt they matched the style of the rest of the game. Not sure how I feel about them 20 years later. I really loved them, especially as a kid. It gave me, because we had the pixel, the little sprite of these characters, but we also, the main characters, we knew how they looked because we had a close up. And like Elaine is one of the few characters that got one, which made her feel special. Several others get, like the head of a navigator also got one.
Yeah,
I like them.
and here's the thing with those. The artwork changed from the EGA release to the VGA release, where you have in the first one you have more proper pixel graphics, and in the second ones they actually then had scans of artwork that they put in and digitized down to that. So if you go for the EGA version, you'll have more of a cohesive kind of view on the characters. Whereas with the VGA version, you get cut out a little more, I would say. And I can understand
Oh
why
yeah,
Ron mentioned it
yeah.
that way. But
I just googled
yeah,
googled the EGA cutscene screenshot, and that's more in line of the style of the game. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. But all in
Because
all,
because it's actual pixel art.
exactly. Yeah.
It does. And then you can pick a statement to put, which I found funny purely because of a conversation we had earlier the week in the week about price of video games. Uh,
Yeah.
and like, of course, video games are going to get more expensive. But one of the lines that you can pick when you finish this game is never pay more than $20 for a game,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a computer game. And Elaine's like, "What's that?" I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't
I
know why
found
I
that
said
that,
that.
that
Yeah.
was that was my finishing line purely because we happened to have a conversation this week about like games are getting more expensive, but it's only a logical result of
Yeah.
inflation, basically. So I found that line funny, so I decided that was my finishing line.
I'd use that line as well when I played it.
Yeah,
Just purely because it's such a such a throw to that
yeah,
to the whole pricing discussion about games.
yeah. Which maybe a future episode in the podcast we can go deep diving into it because we've already
Yeah.
proven that we can at least talk half an hour about it just between us.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
very true. That's very true.
so who knows? For now, uh, any final thoughts?
Monkey Island is such a defining game for a whole genre, right? And
Yeah,
when I got this game for the first time, I was thinking, okay, what is this? I was intrigued by the package. I was intrigued by the code wheel in there, right?
yeah.
Copy
Get the
protection. We
pirate.
should do a copy protection
Oh yeah,
bit at
because there's
some
so
stage.
many fun. Yeah,
Exactly.
because there's so many fun, or yeah, copy protection, also anti-piracy thing that some
Yeah,
games do that are
exactly.
just, especially
But
in the age of the internet.
so for this game, this has cemented for me that I need to find adventure games, right? I was already a
Yeah,
fan of more story driven games at the time already, but this game was, oh yes, what else is out there? I played Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade after that. I played Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders after that. Day of the Tentacle came out after it, Monkey Island 2,
yeah,
and so on and so forth. So this was really a very defining moment for me as a player of the whole concept, style of humor, the way that they presented everything. It just came together so beautifully, and that in a 1990s package. What
yeah.
else can you say about it, right?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I had Leisure Suit Larry to introduce me to the adventure game genre, but I had Monkey Island to make me fall in love with it.
Yeah.
Monkey Island 1 and 2 were such and Day of the Tentacle were such defining games in my history of gaming. Um, Outside of console games, because most of my gaming was done on console except for adventure games. That's why I went to a
Mhm.
PC, and that was up until I started playing MMOs that adventure games were the only PC games that I played.
Yeah.
And especially Monkey Island and the humor of it, and even like years later, meeting people who like in 2009. I met some people who were like, "Oh yeah, did you hear the Monkey Island? I don't know if you know it, but Monkey Island is getting a new release." Like, yeah, of course I know Monkey Island. Monkey Island's awesome. You also know Monkey Island?
And that for a game that had little sales. All of the early adventure games were slow burners, right?
Yeah,
I was watching a retrospective earlier, and I just remember that one graphic when he was talking about. It's a retrospective by Ahoy. I should mention that, a great channel. It's a 6-year-old retrospective by now, but still good watch. And there's one graphic in there where he shows what the initial sales was, and initial sales for Monkey Island, 100,000 plus copies, where other games were in the millions. So
and
yeah,
still it got a real, but it got a sequel, but that sequel was already being worked on before Monkey Island 1 went on sale.
Yeah.
Which we'll dive more into in whenever we do the Monkey Island 2 episode, be it in a year, be it in half a year. Probably not going to be sooner than that because there's so many other games that we have to look into.
Yes.
But
Big work.
we'll definitely revisit Monkey Island. Maybe get some guests in because our other hosts aren't big Monkey Island fans, but we know many people who are.
Oh
So
yeah.
maybe
maybe
we can
we
get
can make that happen. Yeah.
some extra voices in here for Monkey Island 2. But for now, let's wrap up the episode. We've been going for 1 hour and 45-ish minutes now.
Which is way longer than we expected, but
Which
it's
way
such
longer
a
than we
great
expected.
game. What can you
Yeah,
say?
it's such a great game. We're like, because last episode we did an entire series in 90 minutes. So like one game we can be within the
Yeah.
time that we want to be, right? No, we're running not. Sorry, Toadie and Hampy. But as always, let's close off with any closing recommendations. My recommendation is semi-related to this because it's go play Thimbleweed Park. It is a modern game
Yes.
by Ron Gilbert, and I think Dave didn't work on it. No, Dave was working at Telltale
No.
at the time.
But Ron Gilbert was so great
Yeah.
in Thimbleweed, creating Thimbleweed Park. My name is
Yeah.
in the game. My real life name is in the game. I will not tell you
Oh,
that what it is, but my name is in there. And the only reason why my voice isn't in the game is because I forgot to send off the audio file before the deadline.
oh no!
But I would have had my name in there and my voice in there if I would have remembered to send the audio file.
I think Thimbleweed Park is a great continuation of this genre, more in style of Maniac Mansion, maybe because of the multiple characters, but really good game.
Yes.
Go play it. It's if you want to play a good modern point and click adventure from somebody that had a lot of influence in Monkey Island because he was the head guy.
The head guy.
Thimbleweed.
The guy.
The head guy. The guy.
The guy. Yes. So you took away my recommendation.
Oh no.
No. I knew that this was coming, so I already had a backup recommendation on my mind that I don't think that you would have picked. Or let me ask you: do you know a game called Trüberbrook?
I do not.
You do not. Oh my god, you have missed out on something. So Trüberbrook is also a point and click adventure. It is a more artsy point and click adventure. It is a more how do I put this best? It's a more somber experience. It's a more it's less funny, right? It's a more serious art kind of thing, but it is such a good play as well. So if you are into adventures and want to branch out of the great LucasArts, Lucasfilm games, come and visit Trüberbrook for a perfect summer vacation.
Yeah. We will put the spelling of that game in the description of this podcast.
Yes.
Because I want to try it, and I'm not German, so I need the spelling, and I got the spelling from RedMage.
Yeah.
Here.
I would
I would not have guessed the website because the website is different than the spelling of the game itself.
Well, it is actually the right spelling because the U umlaut, the U umlaut is if you type it out, it's UE. So
I always knew the Ringo S is like double S.
Yes, the sharp S as we call it. Yes,
The sharp S,
exactly. No, but the umlauts is always U
UE.
E or AE or OE if you
okay.
do not have the option to type it out.
Yeah. I always had the option to type it out
Yeah.
because we use it as well, just differently.
But yeah, good game, definite recommendation.
All right. Well, with that, I want to thank you very much, and we'll be back next time with more Save States and Fetch Quest. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.